Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we're going to be discussing and analyzing the Browns vs. Giants Sunday night football game. Before we get started, please drop a like and a sub. It really helps my channel grow and I'd really appreciate it. And with that said, let's dive right into the video and I hope you enjoy. So I want to start with the Cleveland Browns in this one. They really played a phenomenal game all around, and it all starts with Baker Mayfield. He came out firing early and he showed confidence. He really just picked up where he left off last game against the Ravens, where he had a fantastic outing, and this one was no different. He was 27 for 32 for 297 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he thrived against zone coverage early, and that really helped him build that confidence and build that momentum going forward. And he really spread out the ball, threw the ball to everyone. Big day from Austin Hooper, big game from Jarvis Landry. And he found his receivers, also Rashard Higgins had a nice game. He found his receivers, spread the ball out, and he was just firing on all cylinders. Also, the Browns' offensive line was really solid in keeping Baker Mayfield upright. They barely allowed any pressure. In the first half, they only allowed one pressure in the first half. They only allowed one sack on the game, I believe. And it was pretty impressive, too. Although Wyatt Teller was out, who's one of the better young guards in the NFL, and their backup guard, Hubbard, got injured in the first few plays, the third stringer, Nick Harris, fit pretty seamlessly into what Cleveland was trying to do on that offensive line, and he was pretty good in run blocking and pass protection. So overall, that offensive line was fantastic, and they have some stars on that offensive line. Jedrick Wills is playing well this season. Jack Conklin is fantastic. He's been really good this season. Also, of course, they have Joel Bitonio, who's one of their main and best run blockers on that O-line. So overall, this Browns offensive line was very, very good in keeping Baker Mayfield upright and allowing for this run game to happen. Talking about the run game, they could not really get the run game going in the first half, and that was kind of upsetting because they're a run-first team with a run-first mentality, and that's something that they really believe in. That's something that their offense is really planned around, and they use the play action, and all of their ability to throw the football comes from running the football. And they've got two of the best running backs in the NFL with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who have a great two-way and two-headed punch. So as I said, first half they could not get that run game going, but in the second half they sticked with it. Nick Chubb ended up with 15 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. Although those aren't great stats, not a great efficiency, the Giants do have one of the better interior defensive lines in the NFL with Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, so it does make sense that this Browns run game struggled a little bit. However, I think this team, when it comes to the playoffs, is going to be really hard to play against just because of their ability to run the football and their ability throughout a game to keep on coming back to the run and just wear teams down throughout the entire season. And this Giants game was no different, is that they come time and time again back to running the football, and that allows them to go deeper in games and win games down the stretch. Now, though, let's go to the defensive side of the football for the Browns. Myles Garrett, I want to talk about him. He looks like he's still working his way back from being out a few weeks ago. Obviously, he had those COVID symptoms. So he doesn't look 100% right now. He still looks like he's getting back into it. He did end up having a sack in the closing seconds of tonight's game. But overall, Andrew Thomas did a pretty good job against him, which is kind of surprising because Garrett is a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL. And Andrew Thomas has been one of the worst left tackles, especially one of the worst rookie left tackles this season. Also, this defense was fantastic. Not only did they give up only 6 points, but they were a bend but not break defense. In the first 3 Giants drives, the Giants had 3 red zone trips, and the Browns only allowed them to 3 points, which is really impressive. Also, the secondary played fantastically tonight. I have no comments, nothing negative to say on that secondary. I think they did a fantastic job overall. Denzel Ward, obviously, in that secondary, and the safeties did a good job, too. So overall, this Browns defense was fantastic. They just held the Giants to what they needed to hold to. But at the end of the day, for the Browns, the MVP of this game was Baker Mayfield. 27 for 32, 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, threw the ball all over the place seamlessly. And with a win tonight, this team is basically and pretty much or less guaranteed to have a playoff spot when it comes time to the playoffs. So big win against the Giants, and it's something that they really needed to get to move on to the playoffs. Next week they have the Jets, so if they win that game, they're basically in. So that's going to be the Browns. For the Giants, not having Daniel Jones and not having Jason Garrett is obviously going to leave them back, right? It's gonna put them behind the sticks for today's game, and it wasn't ideal, right? It wasn't ideal when you don't have your play caller and you don't have your starting quarterback. It's not going to be easy to win football games. And although Colt McCoy did look okay early, he's nothing more than a backup quarterback. He looks serviceable at times, but overall, he couldn't string together anything down the stretch and couldn't keep the Giants in the game in the long run after missing out on opportunities early in the game. Also, something that the Giants did early on was run the football really effectively. If you look at what Wayne Gallman and Alfred Morris did at the beginning of the game, they were actually really efficient. They were hovering just under 5 yards per carry in the first part of the game, and that was something that was really good for them. It really helped the Giants get going, that offense get going, and it allowed them to be really in this game in the first half. However, they shied away from that in the second half, and yeah, they were down 13-3 at halftime, but I would have liked to see them stick with that and keep going with the run game as the game progressed, because they were having success with it early on in the game. Also, as I said, they had their first 3 drives, they were all to the red zone, 3 trips to the red zones, and they only scored 3 points. The first one, they ended up going for it on 4th down on a trick field goal. That was just a questionable play, a play call. Take the points in that situation, or even if you're going to go for it, go for it. Don't use your kicker. And I didn't like that play call from Joe Judge there. And they were down 13-3 at halftime. If they kicked 3 field goals in that situation, they'd been 13-9. Maybe the game would have felt a little bit different. Maybe they would have had a shot. As I said earlier, Andrew Thomas actually did a pretty good job on Myles Garrett for pretty much the entire game, besides that last, basically the second to last play where Garrett had that sack on Colt McCoy. But Thomas looked like he was actually playing some really solid football, was keeping Myles Garrett in front of him, and that's something good and a promising sign to see from the Giants' young left tackle. Overall, on the defensive side of the ball, they stopped the run pretty well. I mean, when you keep a guy like Nick Chubb to under 4 yards per carry, that you're doing a good job. And that's because Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence make up one of the better defensive lines in football. And they had a very good, solid game with some good run stuffing up front in the first half. And even in the second half, they were pretty solid too. This Giants defensive line is really missing that pass rush on the outside, but on the inside and the interior of the defensive line, they're actually doing a pretty solid job with Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. In the secondary, not having James Bradbury was something that really hurt them. I mean, when you don't have a top 5 corner in the NFL this year, or arguably a top 5 corner in the NFL this year, you're going to struggle on the defensive side of the football. And a lot of the success that Baker Mayfield was able to have was because the Giants were missing their star corner, their best corner, and top 5 corner in the NFL this year. That obviously hurt. Also, with a loss, the Giants are their playoff hopes, they're going to dwindle to about 15%, and they're going to need a lot of help from Washington, who play Carolina and then Philadelphia in Week 17. They're going to need Washington to lose those games, and they're going to need to beat Baltimore and Dallas in the next few weeks. So tough games for the Giants coming up, and Washington has 2 winnable games against 2 teams that are playing worse football than Washington is right now. So it looks like Washington should win those games, and with Washington winning those games and the Giants losing tonight, their playoff hopes are going to dwindle. Overall, today really showed that the Browns are going to be a hard team to play in the playoffs. They've got a good run game that can grow and build on defenses and really hurt defenses down the stretch. And Baker Mayfield, if he continues playing like this and continues thriving off zone coverage and zone defense like we saw in this game, I mean, this is going to be a scary Browns team when it comes to the playoffs. They're going to be a tough out, especially in the playoffs where the running the football and being smart with the football and playing smart football in general is something that's really important down the stretch. It's going to be interesting to see this Browns team come time in the playoffs. But for the Giants, it's kind of a tough loss, right? You had your backup quarterback, didn't have your offensive play caller. So at the end of the day, tough loss for the Giants. It pretty much cancels out their playoff hopes. I mean, they've still got some hope down the stretch. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. That's going to finish the video. If you guys have any video suggestions for me, anything you guys want to see, please feel free to drop that into the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please drop a like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, see ya.